Well, hello there and welcome. This is Spend Less Craft More and I'm Julie, and this is my first process video for the year. Hopefully not my last. Hopefully I won't be like last year and only get one done. So this page is about my intentions for 2020 with regards to having a 100 page spending freeze and a low spend year in general in my craft room. I wasn't sure when I started whether it was going to be about my whole, because I am hoping to do a low spend in my whole life, not just in the craft room, but this page ended up being really just about what's happening with regards to my craft. So the title that you're about to see me start creating is hashtag 2020 we have plenty. That's not something that I made up myself. When I first started thinking about having a low spend year this year, it was inspired by just seeing some other people on YouTube, more sort of just generally minimalists and people that are trying to minimize in their sort of, I guess, fashion and makeup rather than specifically craft. But this comes from one of those girls. I'm pretty sure it's the channel Use Less or Useless. So if you're interested in reading about other people's spend less journeys, certainly look that up. Especially if you do have a problem with shopping. A lot of those girls, another one that was really good, I think her channel is called Style Apotheca. If I remember, I'll link them down below. But they've got some really good things to say just about why they spend, and even though they're not specifically talking about craft, they're obviously talking about more their fashion and makeup perhaps, or homewares, that sort of thing. I think it's still quite applicable. So certainly, take your own journey there if that's something that you're interested in doing. So this page I think is about page 23 in my 100 page spending freeze, which sounds pretty impressive given that we're only not even 2 weeks into January, but I did start probably a couple of weeks before Christmas. And also I'm on holidays at the moment. I work casually in childcare, so obviously there's a downtime around Christmas, and it tends to be pretty quiet at the start of the year. I'll just get a little dribble of work before it really picks up, maybe in a month or so. So I'm really hoping to get as much work done as I can now, as much scrapbooking done as I can now before that work kicks in. I do have a couple of days next week, so I'm hoping that I'll get as much done as I can now, still be doing 2 to 3 pages a week while the work is just coming in dribbles, and then we'll see, because even 1 page a week when I'm quite busy, I find hard, but perhaps if the momentum is there, I'll be able to get this done and actually get 100 pages done in less than a year. So we'll see how I go, but at the moment I'm traveling pretty well. In terms of the products that I used, a lot of what I'm using is just leftover from my New Caledonia cruise album that I've just finished. I was sort of about to put them away, and then I went, no, let's see what I can use on this next page before I pack it all up. So other than that, background sheet, that pink floral that I've matted the photo with, and all the little paper strips were all still out just from the New Caledonia album. I'm just adding some stamps now for a little bit of texture and interest, and I'm going to try and work out, and I think that tag was just sitting around somewhere as well. So I'm just going to see how many of those strips I can kind of fit in to just make the page a little bit more interesting. The box that you saw earlier with all my letter stickers, that is all my letter stickers that I own, thickers and whatever. I often do my titles on my silhouette, but for this one I wanted to obviously use what I had as part of the the theme of the challenge of the year, so that's why I did that. Again, I've got lots of stamps, which was what prompted me to get the box of stamps out, and I think later you'll see me use the leftover little, what will become my fake enamel dots, except as I've already mentioned I haven't got the dimensional glue, but I'll put put the little dots on, and they'll get their dimension a little bit later on. So I do encourage you, if you haven't already done this, if you're on a low spend journey this year, to think about maybe scrapbooking your own goals for the year. I think that the more that we write our goals down, the more that we read them, the more that we see them, the more that we share them with others, it does help to make them more real and more concrete. It's not just some little idea that we can kind of forget about it. It's out there in the world. So yeah, by all means join me if you haven't already done so. So I think I already mentioned I'm just doing this page about my scrapbooking goals, not my goals for the rest of my spending for this year, but I do have intentions to do a low spend year right throughout my life, not just in the scrap room, although possibly they're not quite as well formed. I still need to nut them out a little bit more. It's actually a bit of a kind of a joke almost among my family. They're not taking my low spend very seriously. But yeah, I do hope to be a little bit more intentional and thoughtful in my spending this year. Fortunately, it's not to do with debt. Certainly if you did have some debt, you would have to be probably more extreme in more areas than I have to be. But for me, it's more about not spending money on things I don't have to. I do want to be more intentional. I do want to be more sustainable, certainly in terms of, say, makeup and skincare, for example. I'm very committed to not buying anything new just for the sake of it, and only buying things if they're a genuine replacement of something that I do use all the time and I don't have a substitute on hand. Not quite game enough to say that I'll spend no more money on clothes at all this year, but certainly, I don't want to do any impulse buying on clothes. I'm going to try really, really hard not to buy from any fast fashion brands. I have a small list of things that I'm prepared to buy, which will probably evolve over time, that I'll be prepared to buy if I find them secondhand. So for example, my daughter and I went op shopping the other day, and on my list was a pair of nude heels, and I actually found those on I've got a pair of sports girl high heels, nice cute strappy ones, and I think they were $8, so that was great. I do need jeans, I'm pretty sure, this year, so that's one item of clothing. And jeans are they're really not, they're quite bad on the environment is what I'm trying to say. Jeans new, so I've sort of started looking for jeans now because I'm short. So yeah, I don't know whether I'll manage to find them secondhand or not, a pair of jeans that I'm happy with, or whether I'll have to suck it up and spend a decent amount of money on a relatively sustainable brand. We'll see. I've still got a little while to go before I have to worry about that though. So yeah, we'll see how I go. So here in the end I decided just to take out my book, which has got my my kind of rules for 2020, and just sort of writing some of my main points down there. Alrighty, well I think I might leave you guys with some music for a little while, and I might chat a little bit more at the end. guys, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'd love to hear about, of course, your low spend journey or your low spend intentions for the year here or on the Facebook group, and I'll catch you guys really soon.